All right, welcome in, Podawans. Steve and I are going to take a quick look. Everyone else has the reaction videos, so we figured we'd jump into a little bit of a lengthier breakdown. And Steve and I will break down everything we saw in the trailer right after this. All right, Steve. I guess we just start off. Everyone's doing reactions, and that's cool. But we're a little bit, obviously we have jobs and stuff, so it's tough for us to do a reaction 1 minute after. So I wrote down some notes. I know you've seen it sometime, so I figure we jump right into a breakdown. Obviously it's whatever, it's a minute or two long, so there's not a ton here, but I'll give you my notes. But let's just start general feelings. What'd you think? Obviously, other than super excited, but what'd you?
Super excited. Yeah, definitely looking forward to it. I'm glad that we got to see a couple snippets of other characters and cast in there as well.
Yep.
Didn't really. The only thing I guess is it didn't really give me a picture, I guess, overall where the story is going besides finding the child species. So, but it's super exciting to see where it's gonna take off, who's gonna come in, everything. So
yeah,
what'd you think?
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I thought I definitely picked up on that note that I think the big thing is we're going to be focusing on that storyline, right? Like that's going to be, at least from this trailer, it definitely pitched as like this is the main theme of season 2 is that we're going to go on this quest. They reiterated that. The quote from the armor that's basically like you got to go find his home, right? And she talks about the Jedi and he's kind of like, well, I'm supposed to go find space wizards that are our enemy to give him back, and she's kind of like, yeah, like, so it's definitely, it re-mentions that, which definitely hints at him trying to find the Jedi and trying to find his home, right? Kind of at the end of the day. So I think that's going to be the overall arc. I will note the other like quick thing I noticed, it's just an overall note, is the lack of Ahsoka, which we talked about. Would be interesting to see if there was no Ahsoka, right?
Yeah.
No Gideon, and no, which isn't surprising. I mean, we know Gideon's going to be in it, and you kind of saw his like tie Outlander things, but you know Gideon's face, right? And then no Bo-Katan or anything that I could tell looked like a flashback, right? I mean, you can't tell. Obviously, a flashback could be anything, but nothing that obviously screamed flashback to me. So we didn't see those major characters. Now, did you? I'm sure we'll get into it a little bit in the breakdown. But could you pick up whose voice it was in the alien, the Abyssin, the one-eyed guy? It sounded very familiar to me. So we'll have to, maybe we can update this in the comments. I didn't get a chance to look it up.
I thought you were gonna say the chick that was talking, but
No, the one-eyed alien, like when they're at the fight. With the Gamorreans, and he's like talks. His voice sounds very familiar. I don't know. I haven't heard enough like Olyphant or what's the other guy's name?
That was an Olyphant.
Okay. But his voice was very familiar, so that's definitely someone. And I think it might have been the guy that I forget the name, they said was going to be a bounty hunter in this, but anyways, all right, so let's get going. We're going to take it through kind of slowly. Hopefully if you haven't seen the trailer, just go back and watch the trailer on your own straight through. Oh, my dog's barking.
The alien's name is Gore Keresh.
Okay.
So,
and the voice is
no clue yet.
Okay, we'll do it later. All right, so we're going to take it through. So if you haven't seen it, just go check it out. Again, I apologize for my dog barking. And then come back because we're going to kind of take it slow and break it down a little bit. All right, so here we go with the opening. So the ship is kind of beat up. I can see the hatches open as it's kind of floating along here. I won't go crazy on this, but I think this actually may be Endor, the gas giant, with the sanctuary moon in the background.
Could be. It could be Jupiter and Earth.
It could be Jupiter and Earth. Yeah. Well, I think that'd be really close for Earth to Jupiter. You know?
Yeah, I know.
But
this is cool.
But yeah, I think this has a good chance of being Endor, the gas giant, and then this is the moon, the forest moon of Endor. All right, we'll keep going. And his ship is pretty banged up. I have a feeling this is later in the season. Like, I think this may be one of those things that's like, this is the last scene.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I also thought this was cool. And again, don't get annoyed. We're going to break this down like as we go. But this was very reminiscent of the, was it the Who? That's the band that did a lot of the Fallen Order stuff. HU, I believe. But it's like throat singing. It's really cool. It reminds me of that. So there's definitely some interesting music in this trailer.
Yeah. I mean, it's all composed by Ludwig Göransson.
So this is just, Baby Yoda, and we got our Mando walking in. I'll get into. I think there's a couple planets in here that I think this looks pretty like run down and gangstery. I think this may be, and I said in our tweet, I think we may see like a combination of the Hutt worlds of like Nal Hutta and Nar Shaddaa, which is the moon over Nal Hutta. Both of them, like Nal Hutta, I think is like swampy, and Nar Shaddaa was known to be like a cityscape kind of thing, but this almost looks like a beat up cityscape world. I think this may be where we see the Gamorreans fighting later in the trailer, but just interesting to keep in mind. They could all be new planets. You know what I mean? Like that happens all the time, but it would make sense for him to go, especially if we see him in Tatooine and if he meets Cobb Vanth and the whole Hutt thing. Maybe there is some Hutt involvement. So Nal Hutta and Nar Shaddaa, especially for a bounty hunter, shouldn't be a crazy theory,
Right. I mean, I would throw one in there for Lothal.
Could be. The only thing I would say is that the last time we saw Lothal, it's pretty brand new looking. You know what I mean? It looks like it's all built up again at the end of Rebels. But yeah, I mean, it does have that. It does have a little bit of that Lothal vibe from the beginning of Rebels, where like Ezra's running around.
Yep.
Then I think, obviously this could be the same thing as like the Arvala 7, where we get the Baby Yoda that looks kind of Tatooine-y. I would say it's Tatooine because of the Sand People and Banthas, but as we've seen with like the Jawas and stuff, there are a bunch of species that are transplanetal. Is that how you would say it? Trans-universe, like they are multiple planets and everything. So I think it's probably a safe guess to say this is Tatooine, because obviously we've thought we may get Boba Fett and Cobb Vanth, and obviously this is a Bantha and Sand People, but that'd be my guess, but you never know.
Yeah.
This is like this snow planet looking thing. I'm thinking we may see Ilum or maybe even Hoth. Obviously, those are the two big snow planets. Ilum is what turned into Starkiller Base, was where the Jedi used to hunt the crystals for their lightsabers, right? So, and we saw it in Fallen Order. It is a snow planet, a lot of cracks and mountains, like crevices and ravines and stuff like that, which is very much what this looks like. Again, could be just a completely random planet, but if we're gonna go on breakdowns and try to give you some hints, I think this very well could be Hoth or it could be Ilum. I think this fits the bill, especially if he's going through and getting clues on like where the Jedi have been or could be, right?
Yeah.
Ilum would be a logical step.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it would be cool to see Hoth. I mean, just as a throwback.
Yeah. Well, even that, if he was following like places Luke has been, right?
Yeah.
Like, or Rebel Alliance, like he could be following a lot. Like you got to figure if he's trying to find the home of Baby Yoda, I mean, he's starting at square one. He's got no information, right?
So maybe if just he's path of his...
of just different, like, hey, the last Jedi we've heard of is Luke Skywalker, so he's just retracing his steps, or he's going through any lore he can find, and he finds out that Ilum was like had a cave of crystals, so he goes and checks it out, right?
Yep.
I'm not sure of the First Order implication in Ilum, because obviously they turn that into Starkiller Base. I don't know timeline wise exactly when that happens. Obviously the Empire was kind of tearing it apart in Fallen Order, so I don't know exactly what Ilum would look like, but we don't really get a picture of the total planet, just kind of them flying in, you know what I mean? So
yeah, that's
again
true.
Just a guess. His ship looks pretty banged up here in the background. Like, you see the crack? Unless I'm completely wrong, this thing looks like it's torn apart again. So he's gonna have. I think we're having some problems Look at like the paneling right here.
Yeah, I
It's
don't
like
know.
ripped off. I just think we're gonna have his ship just looks like it's just taking a beating. All right.
The Great, and an order of salt.
This one I think was cool too. This is the water planet that we're gonna see. We see a bunch of Quarren, which is awesome. Couldn't really pin these two guys down. If they're aquatic species, I think this would be cool if this was like their kids kind of thing. Like they're like amphibians when they grow older, they can like breathe air, but as their kids, like they're in like water, right? Like that kind of thing.
Yep.
I believe this is a Mon Calamari too. There's a bunch of Quarrens, but I think this guy in the background is a Mon Cal. This would obviously make sense if it's Mon Cala, or I think they also call it Dak.
You think that's a Mon Cal?
Right here, watch him turn his fin hands. He's also a way redder shade than all the Quarren, and watch him kind of go here. Yeah, they're definitely Mon Cals, these two.
Sure.
Yeah, I have it like blown up on my screen. Like they're 100% Mon Cals.
Because from a distance, it looked like a Trandoshan for a second.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm like 99.9% sure now that I have it on my bigger computer screen that these are Mon Cals. This may even be one too with like a head wrap. So there's a good chance that this is Mon Cala or Dak, because that's where these two species, that's their homeworld, right? And it's a water covered homeworld. We see a little bit more with the ships and stuff. There's been a lot of art in the comics and the Clone Wars. It's not like it rules it out from being Mon Cala, but Mon Calamari stuff is usually more like loopy and like curvy design. Some of the Quarren stuff has harsher angles, but in all the and this stuff's pretty sharp. Almost looks like U.S. Navy stuff. You know what I mean? Like very harsh angles. But I went back and looked at a couple pictures of some of the comics, and there's all kinds of different designs and stuff. So I just think this may be. I didn't see anything specifically that looked like this, but there's so much different stuff on Mon Cala with the art that I don't think it rules it out from being here just because they're of the sharp angles. You know what I mean?
Right.
All right, let's continue on here. So then we get our first. Let me see if I can get a better picture here. Our first shot of Sasha Banks, which is cool.
Yeah.
Doesn't look super Sabine, but I think they may have done that on purpose. This also makes sense. If he's looking, this is how this whole Ahsoka thing makes sense. Is that if his main mission is to find the Jedi, right? Which is well, main mission is to return the child, but if that leads him to believe that he has to find the Jedi, if he's asking around, you have a lot of connections, right? You have one that was a Jedi, Ahsoka, and who's her main point of contact at this point is Sabine, who is what? A Mandalorian. You know what I mean? So it's very logical. It really isn't like shocking, but it's nice to see. She could be anything too. She could be a Jedi. I mean, they're talking about the Jedi in this. I think that's a mislead. I think it's Sabine, and she's gonna help her find Ahsoka. But at the very least, we know Sasha Banks is in it, which is great, right? Because isn't this one of those ones that wasn't officially confirmed? You know?
Right. But the only thing I would say is that I find it odd that she's dressed like that instead of dressed like a Mandalorian. That part I'm a little bit interested in as to why she'd be cloaked like that if in fact it is Sabine.
Right. It maybe being Sabine, I think you bring up a good point. This also calls into question where in the timeline that Ahsoka and Sabine scene at the end of Rebels is.
Right.
Because if everything's still hunky-dory, like with the Mandalorians at that point, and they haven't been eliminated, maybe that's like right after Return of the Jedi. Although I think the whole like purge thing is going to happen before the end Return of the Jedi, so I don't think it completely lines up. But maybe Sabine leaves, and whatever they find out there with Ahsoka, she like has to give up some Mandalorian stuff, or maybe she's just hiding in plain sight. If Mandalorians are that rare, maybe she just doesn't, because she's been known not to wear the helmet a lot in Rebels, you know. So
there is some people that are speculating that she is this Sasha Banks is in fact a Jedi, but I think I'm leaning towards what you're saying is that I have a hard time believing that a Jedi out of nowhere would just, it doesn't make sense to me. That it makes more sense that it would be Sabine or someone close to the Mandalore realm or something of that sort. From a Jedi perspective, I don't. Why would there be a Jedi in the middle of nowhere?
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Like.
Well, and we know, and basically we know they could make it up, but we know mainly what Jedi kind of escaped and stuff, and there's none that really match this. Like Barriss Offee is still like in limbo as to what happened to her, but this is clearly not Barriss Offee because this is not a
it's not, yeah.
A Mirror. Oh God, why am I'm mixing up all my stuff? But this is not the alien race that Barriss Offee is, right?
Right.
She has tattoos on her face. She clearly doesn't. Sasha Banks clearly doesn't. I think this is simply. I think the Jedi thing is a slight misdirect, and having her in a hood leads more to that. I just think logically it makes sense that if he is searching for the Jedi and where to put Baby Yoda, and he's putting feelers out there, or he's searching, that it's a very real possibility. One of two things: either Sabine and Ahsoka find out about this and go looking for him, you know what I mean? Right. To kind of be like, does he really have a Baby Yoda? You know what I mean? Especially Ahsoka, if she hears that news, she's gonna be like, what? They have a Yoda species? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or and the Mandalorian contact, right? And then, or maybe he's searching her out because she went, oh, Sabine. He knows Sabine went from his family history from Mandalore. He knows about Sabine, and he knows that she supposedly went missing with a Jedi or ex-Jedi. You know what I mean? Like this kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like I said, I have a hard time believing that it is a Jedi. It just doesn't make sense.
Making up another Jedi that survived and having to do backstory on it, I just don't think is what this show is trying to do.
Yeah.
And deliver this creature to a race of enemy sorcerers.
This is the way.
I also think it's interesting that they specifically call it, like, in the armor, and I know there's some, like, we don't know what happens to the Mandalorians, but that they specifically call them a race of enemy sorcerers, right? Because, like, Ahsoka was directly involved in a lot of stuff that went down with Mandalore with Sabine, right? And even Sabine had the darksaber and everything. So as much as I know that, like, in canon, they kind of tried to erase Jedi from history and taint what they actually were, it almost seems like the Mandalorians, the way that they pass down culture and stuff like that, that they would have a better understanding. Like, they were enemies like thousands of years ago. You know what I mean? They're really not enemies. So that's interesting to me, like what his view on Jedi are, right? Because I would think at this point, Mandalore has a relative, at least neutrality with Jedi as a whole. You know what I mean?
Maybe not though. You might. I mean, was Vader involved in the Night of a Thousand Tears?
Yeah, but I don't think anybody thinks he's. I'm saying I would think if any culture, especially with the Sabine Ahsoka relationship towards in Rebels, if any culture were to see through the lies of like the Empire's bullshit on what the Jedi actually were, I feel like the Mandalorians, with Bo-Katan, knowing Obi-Wan and all that stuff, I feel like if and again, the general public, I think, and the general galaxy did fall into this trap of not knowing what the Jedi were and you know what I mean, what the Empire kind of propagated. But I would think the Mandalorians, especially being led at that point by Bo-Katan and Sabine and knowing Ahsoka and knowing Obi-Wan, I would think if any culture knew, especially the way they pass down things, I would think they would know more about what actually happened. But maybe not. I don't
know. Vader. There were people that looked at Vader and they commonly mistaken him for being a Jedi.
Yeah.
So it could be a possibility. I don't know. I'm just saying.
I don't know if anybody mistook him for a Jedi.
And
did they mistake Vader for a Jedi?
No, like in general, like people have like. Sith hasn't been a common term in the galaxy. Like no one looks at Vader and is like, oh, that's a Sith Lord. Like no one thinks of that when it comes to Darth Vader. They just know that he has a lightsaber. He has Jedi-like powers that people would commonly look at and be like, oh, that's a Jedi. But in a dark because again, like if you has there been any instances where people not like closely related to like Luke and Leia and the Rebels, would they know that Vader's Sith? Probably
I don't think
not.
Sith is used. From my general understanding of the way that like the general public was, I don't think they would think he's a Jedi. I think Palpatine purposely like purged a lot of the information on the Jedi and made them these evil space wizards. And I think from most of what I've read, even within the Imperial ranks, Vader's almost like more of a myth. I don't think anybody thinks he's a Jedi. And I don't think the Force is considered a Jedi thing at this point. That's what's weird. I think he erases the Jedi. I think the Force is kind of this mystical thing that like some believe, some don't. I guess it doesn't really matter. He's in the end, Din Djarin is directly referring to them as an enemy race of space wizards. So obviously he doesn't know.
Right.
My point is I'm just confused at why he doesn't know. But it's not really worth getting into because he says it, so he clearly thinks it. You know what I mean? Or he clearly has no knowledge of it. So here they are on the boat. All right, this is another scene with the X-wings that I think is interesting. I think they're making this seem, especially with the later scene of the X-wings chasing them. I think they're making this seem like a like he's wanted almost and being chased. I think they're working together here, and I think this may be, if those title leaks are true, this may be his approach, like him going to the Republic with some information. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's how I took it.
Maybe
too.
going to Leia, like something like that. You know what I mean? Like finding out Luke's a thing. Who knows? But like I think he's like not a prisoner and not being attacked. I think he's going for information. I think they're like flying him in.
Yeah, that's I got the same vibe too. I didn't think it was they were trying to attack him. At first I was kind of like,
what's going on? Yeah.
On here, but then once you see him flying through the canyons, it's kind of like, yeah, they're clearly, they would be shooting at him at that range.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Especially, I think some people will take, because they go into they open up the S foils and go into like attack mode here. But it doesn't seem like they're dropping behind him to attack. It seems like they're going with him into a battle.
Right.
All right,
or they're guiding him somewhere.
Or what?
Or they're guiding, like they're
backup. I definitely thought guiding at first too, but then they open their S foils and then you see this scene where they're flying behind him, not shooting. It seems like they're following. I feel like they're going into something together. Could be wrong, but I think they're purposely baiting you into thinking he's being chased.
You playing it?
Now I am, yeah.
Oh, I have to delay, so I have to wait.
Yeah, and then we have him on a speeder. Nothing fancy here, you know what I mean? Just a speeder bike. I think this is probably that.
Cara Dune.
That same planet, probably Tatooine, but that could be Arvala too. Arvala 7, this one, where the Bounty Guild is. So so Cara Dune and Greef Karga. The only thing I wanted to mention here, and I noticed this in those promo pictures, Cara Dune's armor upgrade is clearly from Sorgan or dyed with those blue krill, because I went back and looked. Everything is this like off teal color from that blue krill on that planet. I think it's really neat that they're involving that. Because even the clothing from the villagers was like this teal that they got from the blue krill. So I think that's a really neat touch. You know what I mean? It's a little upgrade. It probably lends to the fact that she spent more time on Sorgan, maybe in between the season or whatever. And Greef Karga is just looking a little bit more magistrate, right? After Gideon said he was a disgraced magistrate, I think he's looking a little more official here. Maybe the Bounty Hunters Guild is a little more up on the up and up now. So we'll see. And we get the TIE Outlanders. It's cool to see that there's a few of these. I think in the initial one, it looks like 4 here. In the initial one, I thought it may be just like a Gideon prototype kind of deal.
Yep.
So we'll see. This very much looks like Arvala 7 too. So I don't know if he's setting up camp here. I can't imagine that him and the Bounty Hunters Guild are gonna like live on the same planet for long. You know what I mean? So I do wonder where these two things are taking place, you know?
Yeah.
Some stormtroopers, you know, I think we're gonna see Gideon in a Star Destroyer, which is gonna be pretty cool. You know, these stormtroopers are looking a little newer, right? A little fresher. So he's still got some troops that are clean. And then he's got scout troopers on some bikes heading out, which is cool. We got Mando going into action. So I think maybe there's going to be another battle on Arvala 7 because all of this looks like, or not Arvala. I keep saying Arvala 7. Sorry, Arvala 7 is the one where Baby Yoda was picked up in Queels from. This should be Navarro, which is the Bounty Hunter Guild's planet. So maybe Gideon's able to escape, kind of deal, right? And then he comes back with like a Star Destroyer, and that's what all these like scenes are of them kind of coming back to like wipe out the Bounty Hunter Guild and Greef Karga and stuff because he's pissed.
You know this is no place for a child.
And this is that guy's voice.
Wherever I go, he goes.
So here's the fight with the Gamorreans, right? Little fight club, which is pretty cool. They got some serious ass weapons. Someone's gonna get effed up. These flags also remind me of like Maz Kanata's, where she had all like the pod racing flags and different stuff. So yeah. I wonder if there'll be some hidden, like this is probably like, I don't know, like Aldar Beto's flag from Pod Racer back in the day. You know what I mean? Like there'd definitely be something like that, like unused props. But this guy's voice is the one I'm talking about. He's an Abyssin with the one eye.
So I've heard.
This dude, I think he's Abyssin. That's the most logical conclusion.
He is Abyssin.
He is. Oh, they've already like launched him as a character officially or whatever.
Yeah, he's Abyssin. But
okay,
I don't know.
Cool.
Like I said, I don't know who the voice is. The only thing I would speculate with the voice, you were saying Timothy Olyphant. I'm not getting that, but maybe it could be Michael Biehn.
I think that's the one I was thinking because they said he's going to be a former bounty hunter or something.
So that makes sense.
This kind of makes sense. Yeah.
It's not. If you look at IDMB, both him and Timothy Olyphant both don't have
like roles.
Yeah. Like everyone else kind of has a speculated or they have an official role. So
gotcha.
That's my.
I have to go back and hear. Like maybe I'll do a YouTube video and listen to his voice. But I've heard this voice before, so that would make sense. Yeah. He's got a bunch of hexagon patches, which is what the First Order eventually uses, a hexagon patch logo. I don't think there's anything there, but just thought I'd mention. Also, Abyssin are pretty brutal from what I understand. I know in canon, I think Yoda mentions it in Master and Apprentice, that like, I think Qui-Gon's talking about him, and Yoda's like, why do we care about them? Like when they get old, they beat their old when they can't, because I guess they can regenerate, and then if they get old enough and they can't regenerate, they literally kill their elderly to keep like enough resources, and it's like Jesus.
Yeah,
like that's pretty dark.
Yeah.
So then we got this cute little scene. We got some whispers, and then Baby Yoda's like, "Fuck that." And then we get some action. I think the obvious thing is we think these guys are Zabrak. But the horns on their head, this is going to sound real nerdy, but like the horn on their head is not, it's like all around the sides and there's nothing on top. So it's an interesting, like, not that it can, again, all these, and anything species wise, right? Like it would make sense that there are different horn patterns and stuff in Zabraks, right? Like if you were thinking about it logically, I'm just saying like every Zabrak we've ever seen has like, while it may be slightly different, they all have them all over their head. You know what I mean? These are like very much like those dinosaurs. I think there's a better shot. Yeah, see how there's like nothing on his head, on the top of his head? It's all, what are the head-butting dinosaurs? Remember those things? That's what this reminds me of, with the big shell on top and then like horns around the side. But I mean, it could just be, a slightly different version of a Zabrak or whatever. And he's got the tattoos. Yeah. So, just thought I'd mention it. Definitely a cool looking kind of badass guy, right? I think this is all taking place in that first planet or second planet that you see. I think this may be like Nal Hutta or Nar Shaddaa. I think this is going to be like a bounty hunter scum planet. You know what I mean? Like scum and villainy kind of thing.
Maybe.
Boom.
Right. This is the way.
Later, bro. And then the classic, this is the way. There you go. Awesome. Yeah, so I mean, overall, I thought we'd get more into it. We did almost a half hour, so we got into it more. But that's mostly what I had. Let me just check and see. I just wrote down a couple notes and stuff. So let me see if I had anything else that I missed when we were going through it. I think that was my main. Those were my main breakdowns. Yeah, throughout the whole thing, like I think we mentioned, I think some of the planets we may see: Tatooine, Navarro, Mon Cala, Ilum or Hoth, Endor, and the forest moon of Endor, Nal Hutta, and Nar Shaddaa. So we'll keep our eye out for those. The other thing I mentioned, I don't think I mentioned in the with the X-wings, because they both had red markings. I'm real interested to see if this is not the New Republic. I knew they were using a bunch of different X-wings and stuff. I don't think they had an official like color scheme at this point. They eventually become kind of like a blue and yellow, but they were both red. I wonder if this isn't necessarily like straight up the Republic, and if it's like a version of Rogue Squadron who's still kind of out hunting.
Why do you say that?
Well, red was Rogue Squadron. Like a lot of their X-wings were red. So I just would find it interesting if, on a flip side, if instead of him going to the Republic kind of deal with the Baby Yoda situation, I wonder if, because the Republic is still hunting down like Imperial remnants, and I wonder if Moff Gideon is high on their list at this point as like a dangerous suspect, and he kind of... We've heard that the Baby Yoda may be with Gideon at some point. There may be like a betrayal kind of thing from what Giancarlo Esposito has said. So I wonder if there's some weird thing where like he loses the Baby Yoda and then calls in kind of like the hit squadron to take out. Like he goes, all right, fine, let's get some help from the Republic, and like this is who they send. Almost like the Aftermath crew. Right, who was hunting down Imperial remnants. I wonder if Rogue Squadron is that, or like a squadron is like a specifically goes after, and maybe they call in some Republic help, because obviously Esposito's got probably a Star Destroyer. So like his, the Razor Crest isn't taking on a Star Destroyer, so maybe they call in for some backup, I just think that'd be an interesting twist, because we're definitely thinking Republic, but maybe this is more of like the special forces of the Republic, you know what I mean? Not really like the government side, like the guys who are just like, hey, go make sure that these guys are gone.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think that's it. Just let me do a quick scroll.
Yeah, I didn't really have much more to add to that. I'm just super excited to see. I'm really intrigued to see what Sasha Banks is actually playing. That was the big takeaway I got from it. And then see who the armorer is too.
They only invoice, didn't see her in this. Yep.
Yeah, so who knows? That could be, like I said, it could. I know we've talked about this, but who knows? It could be Bo-Katan, and we have no clue. Maybe she just took on a different identity after the Night of 1,000 Tears. So be interesting to see.
Yeah, my closing thoughts are, I think what we're going to see now, because we didn't see Ahsoka in the trailer, I think all that hype about like how Ahsoka shot this like promo scenes a couple weeks before they thought it was going to come out, I think that'll be like a teaser as we get closer, right? Because we're going to get different versions of the trailer like we always do. So like, I think this is your set one. This is going to be it for a little while. But as we sneak towards the end of September, maybe beginning of October, I think that Ahsoka panel that they talked about with like promo material, I think that may be one of their big teasers. You know what I mean? Closer to the season, with her just like one of those, like, this is just one added scene to this basic collage, this same trailer, and it ends with like Ahsoka in like a wherever doing like a backflip, igniting lightsabers and taking 3 people out. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. So yeah, that's all I got. So hopefully everybody learned something. Let us know if you have any questions or comments below, something we missed. We'll be on Twitter, and we'll have a podcast hopefully later this week, where we'll probably dive into it a little bit. We have other things going on, but yeah. Yeah. All right.
Sounds good. Catch you later, Podawans.
Later, Podawans.